Podcast U is brought to you in part by Wirecast. Lets you stream professional-looking broadcasts from any location with just a camera, computer, and an internet connection. TV production without the TV budget. Wirecast 4.2 available now at www.telestream.net/Wirecast. Gorilla Printing can fill all of your digital printing needs, from trade show banners right down to business cards. Check them out today at gorillaprinting.ca. Hey, welcome to another episode of Podcast U. I'm your host, Richard Cleveland, and tonight we're talking about podcasting, and in particular, we're going to be talking about Wirecast, so stick around. Well, there we go. It's another fine Wednesday night, nice and warm here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And we do the show every Wednesday night. Usually I have a co-host with me, Nick Craig from Radar Gaming. And tonight I'm flying solo because we're going to be talking about Wirecast over the next 3 episodes. And tonight's episode, we're going to take you into the basics of Wirecast, how to set up some shots, how to stream onto the internet, and how to record. And we'll tell you a little bit about how Wirecast works. We'll tell you a little bit about the computer that we built to stream Wirecast, and we're going to do that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about some things that are in podcasting news. And first and foremost, Stickam shut down. Stickam is a CDN, or a content delivery network, where you could do a live stream from. It had been around for about 7 years. And due to the length of or the lack of money coming into their company, they decided after 7 years it was time to hang up their hat and get out of the live streaming business. And they have since moved on. Also, Adam Carolla launched a new video podcast network back in the middle of January, which we neglected to talk about. So that's something to keep in mind. And our good friend Mike Phillips, who was on the show last week when we did the roundtable, and if you haven't seen the roundtable, you can go up to our YouTube page, the Naked Ape Productions YouTube page, and just look for the playlist that says Podcast U, and that will be there, and you can hear all about what we were talking about last week. And that's actually going to be part of another thing I want to talk about yet tonight. But Mike Phillips has written a couple of really good articles. Most notably, he did one on Skype ducking. So if you're a podcaster and you use Skype to bring in your guest, or you bring in a co-host via Skype, and you notice a ducking issue, well, he's got a great article over at the IAIB website, which is www.ibroadcastnetwork.org, and it's right there under the From the Blog section, right on the front page. Go check that out. It's a great article on how to eliminate ducking issues with Skype callers. So I really want you to go check that out. He also did another article called Disabling Input Monitoring on Your Sound Card. Another great article, and I think if you haven't read it and you're a podcaster, definitely something to go check out. What else do we want to talk about tonight? Quickly, again, the IAIB, if you're not a member of the IAIB, which is the International Association of Internet Broadcasters, and you are a podcaster, it's a great resource. Join their forum and get in touch with other podcasters around the world, because we all like to share our information with one another, or the majority of us do. Some people don't, but the majority of us do. What else? I wanted to talk quickly about something that we were talking about on the show last week during the roundtable, and we were talking about the future of podcasting, and we talked a little bit about the audio problems that or the suits that were happening from Personal Audio LLC, and they were starting to go after podcasters such as Adam Carolla and HowStuffWorks.com after winning a suit against Apple. And we have found out that Apple, the suit that they won against Apple, didn't really necessarily have to do with podcasting in some ways. Some ways it did. It was more about how they were sending out the feeds and how people were able to get serialized programming from their website. Now, what's happened recently is Personal Audio LLC has started to go after podcasters. They've sent them letters. Some podcasters have received letters, apparently, that are stating that they need to pay a licensing fee now, which I completely disagree with. And the people who've gotten on board to get behind this is the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which has been against a lot of different suits and just stupidity regarding the internet. So if you're interested in that, check out the EFF website or the Electronic Frontier Foundation website and read the article. And you can find a lot of this information and links to it on Google+. We use Google+ on a regular basis. And it looks like we've got a few people in the chat room tonight. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining. And I see our good friend My Talk Radio Rich is here. So we're going to get on with what we're going to talk about tonight. So we're talking about Wirecast. Wirecast is a software switching program. And what the program is designed to do is switch cameras, stream your content to the internet, and record it all at the same time. So first and foremost, I'm going to go to some video here so I can answer some questions in the chat room if you have any while you're watching the video. So let's go to the first part. Well, this is the first of 3 episodes that we are going to be doing covering Wirecast. Now, you're asking yourself, what is Wirecast? Well, Wirecast is a software application made by a company called Telestream, and what it allows you to do as an internet broadcaster or a house of worship or even a school is to broadcast your content over the internet or record it in high definition or whatever you like. It's pretty much a software switching and recording application and streaming application all rolled into one. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at the basics of Wirecast, and I'm going to show you how to set it up today. We're going to talk about how to add cameras, how to switch, how to add other elements, and maybe a few other things along the way. First and foremost, what I do want to show you is that, and we're also going to show you how to broadcast. First and foremost, I want to show you what we did to use Wirecast. Now, if you go to Wirecast's website at telestream.net/Wirecast, there's all kinds of documents that are available for you, telling you what type of system you should be using to run Wirecast, what the different versions of Wirecast are. There's 2, as a matter of fact. The first one is called Studio, and the second one is called Pro. And they're about there's about a $500 difference between the two. Wirecast Studio is $499, and Wirecast Pro is $999. And you can purchase both of those from the Telestream website, and there's a link down below that you can go to and check it out. First of 3 episodes that we are going to be doing covering Wirecast. Now, you're asking yourself, what is Wirecast? Well, Wirecast is a software application made by a company called Telestream, and what it allows you to do as an internet broadcaster. First of 3 episodes that we are going to be doing covering Wirecast. Now, you're asking yourself, what is Wirecast? Well, Wirecast is a software application made by a company called Telestream, and what it allows you to do as an internet broadcaster or a house of worship or even a school is to broadcast your content over the internet or record it in high definition or whatever you like. It's pretty much a software switching and recording application and streaming application all rolled into one. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at the basics of Wirecast, and I'm going to show you how to set it up today. We're going to talk about how to add cameras, how to switch, how to add other elements, and maybe a few other things along the way. First and foremost, what I do want to show you is that, and we're also going to show you how to broadcast. First and foremost, I want to show you what we did to use Wirecast. Now, if you go to Wirecast's website at telestream.net/Wirecast, there's all kinds of documents that are available for you, telling you what type of system you should be using to run Wirecast, what the different versions of Wirecast are. There's 2, as a matter of fact. The first one is called Studio, and the second one is called Pro. And they're about there's about a $500 difference between the two. Wirecast Studio is $499, and Wirecast Pro is $999. And you can purchase both of those from the Telestream website, and there's a link down below that you can go to and check it out. Now, if you want to download a free trial and test out what you are seeing here on the show, you can do that by downloading the free trial from the website as well. So let's dive in and show you what Wirecast is all about. First and foremost, we're going to show you the system that we use Wirecast on. And that system... Okay, so the computer that we built here is strictly used for Wirecast, and inside this thing we've got an Intel. What do we got in here? We've got an Intel Core i7 3770K, which is a fairly fast processor. It's on a 22 nanometer architecture for all the geeks in the room. It runs at 3.5 gigahertz. We've got it overclocked to 4.2 here in the studio. Now we've got this on an Asus P8Z 77-M Pro Mini ATX motherboard. You can see there we're running 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 1 terabyte drive, which we've partitioned. So if anybody's got any questions about that, we can certainly talk about why we partitioned it. And then we've got a Corsair X650 modular power supply. The reason that we put a modular power supply in this unit was because we wanted to keep the clutter down as far as cables go, and that was the biggest part of the problem, because if you don't put in a modular power supply into something this small, you tend to have a lot of clutter of extra wire that you don't need. Now, this particular case also has USB 3 on the front end, so you plug it directly into the board and you've got USB 3 ports on the front instead of USB 2. We're using 3 Noctua NT R8 fans, and they are running at about 7 decibels a piece, so a total of 21 decibels, so not very loud at all. I've actually got the computer sitting on the desk roughly about 2 feet away from the microphone, and I don't think you can pick up any of the sound. We put in a D-Link 2-port USB 3 hub on the back, or USB 3 card, just so that we can add some additional webcams. We have the Aver TV HD PVR video capture card, which allows us to bring in 2 camera sources, one on HDMI and the other is on component or composite via breakout cable. And we put in an additional video card, and this is the GeForce GT630 from Asus, and it's a 2 gig card, which allows us to have 2 monitors if we so choose. Now, for cameras, running 2 Logitech C910s in the studio. We've got a Microsoft LifeCam Cinema HD. We've also got the Canon Vixia HFR20 HD camcorder, an old Canon ZR960. We're running Wirecast 4.2.3 and Wirecast Toolbox 1.3. For those people who don't know what Wirecast Toolbox is, it's an application that you can download for free if you're a Windows user. I'm not sure if it's available on the Mac side, but Wirecast is available for both Mac and Windows, as I said earlier. So if you have any questions about the hardware that we're using in our studio, by all means, just put a question there in the chat room and I'll be happy to answer it. And now let's get on to the second half of talking about how to set up Wirecast. So let's move on to what you see when you open Wirecast. Well, this is exactly what you see. You have several areas available to you on Wirecast. And first and foremost, let's go up to the top. Up here, you'll find all the usual suspects, like your file menu and edit, switching, media, and I'll go into these in a little bit more detail as we move along. Then below that, we have your broadcast button and your record button. You'll have to set these up within the software before you can actually stream out to a content delivery network such as Justin TV. There's also a preview button, so if we click that, you can see now we have 2 screens. Over here is our preview shot, and this is our live shot. I typically will only use the live shot, but depending on how many cameras you have, you can use the preview shot. And then there's an inspector as well. We come down below our main viewing area, and right below that is how we can transition from camera to camera or shot to shot. And here you'll find pull-down menus that have all the transitions listed. There's a smooth shot, a cut, bowstring, a swoop, a sideways, a cube, as well as many others. We can change the timing of the shot by this little clock right here. And here we have an automatic go button. When it's green, what it does is if you have two shots lined up, one in preview and one in live, if you put another camera into preview, that shot is automatically going to go live. So we've set it up to automatically do that sort of thing. Now down here you'll find where you can bring in different sources, and this is going to be your layer area. And let's start in first and foremost by explaining what those are. We go from the shot list to our live broadcast area. And first and foremost, what you want to do is you want to set things up. So before we bring in any cameras and any shots, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the top here, and we are going to look at broadcast. Now you'll see here we have canvas size, broadcast settings, start and stop, both the recording and the broadcasting. We have an external display output. If you had two monitors connected to your computer, you could send one out, a program out essentially to another monitor. So if you had any guests in your studio, they could watch it as well. And then we have virtual camera outputs, and I'll explain how this all works in just a little bit as well. So first and foremost, let's set up our canvas size. I'm going to set it up to be a 720p, because when you're streaming to the internet, you really don't need any more than 720p. 1080p, a lot of viewers won't be able to watch it. It'll be buffering a lot for them. So what I tend to do is set my canvas size to 720p. So it's a nice, decent, you'll see that it's changed just a little bit there. And now when I go to grab my cameras, if my cameras are already high definition cameras, they're going to fit into this area very nicely. So let's start adding some cameras. And we'll start by adding the Canon Vixia HFR20 shot, which is this shot right here. This shot right here. We had a little echo problem there. But this is this shot right here. This is the HFR20. And we're going to turn off that so it doesn't send any audio back, and we don't get any echoing, which we just did. So there's a couple of things that you have to do. All right, so now we want to bring in an audio source. So in our case, I like to put my audio source, because as you can see right here, it's not receiving any audio, even though I'm talking. It's not receiving any audio. So we have to add an audio source. So let's go and set up the rest of our window before we do that. So we're going to go up to the layout button, and you'll see here we have preview, master audio, master shot or main shot list. We have an output statistics, and we have a layer panel. I want to turn on the layer panel, and you'll see now we have this little pop out that gives us all of the 5 layers. I also want to turn on my output statistics. Now, the output statistics are going to tell you what your frames per second are. It's also going to tell you your CPU usage and the data rate, as well as give you a bit of a timer up here so you can see how long that you've been recording. So now let's go in and add our audio. And I like to usually add my audio on layer 5. So I'm going to go down, and my audio in this case is a Behringer USB WDM audio driver. So that's the one I'm going to use. I'm going to turn it on. Now you can see I've got audio coming in. I still haven't added that audio to my shot. So I want to make sure that that audio is turned on for my shot. So there it is. Now I've got audio coming in. It's recording fine. Everything is going well. Now we're going to move on to, well, now that we've got a shot, what do we do with it? Well, we can do a variety of different things. Now that our shot is in there, let's actually grab another shot. So we've got 2 shots, and I'm going to grab a secondary camera. And the camera I'm going to grab this time, just to show you, is a Microsoft LifeCam Cinema. And now that shot comes in. Now that shot doesn't look too bad. It's a little out so you can see too much of me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a trick here with this camera, and I'm going to go and edit the shot. I know the shot I'm editing is is surrounded by this blue box, and I want to zoom in virtually. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, the left mouse button, and I'm going to use the scroll wheel, and you can see that I'm moving in, and I can reposition that shot when I think I've got it where I want it. There we are. Now it's pretty much where I want it, and although it still looks the same, watch this. When I hit the button again, the shot just zooms right in, so it looks really good. So now we've got two shots set up. Well, we've got two shots. Now what do we do? Well, do we have audio on that second shot? Let's make sure our audio is tied into that second shot. So this is something that you have to do in Wirecast, is make sure that Wirecast knows that you've got audio for every shot that you're doing. Because if it doesn't know, you may switch to a shot and it may not have any audio tied to it. And that's where those layers come in. So it's very important that you make sure that you have audio tied to all of the shots. Well, maybe I want to bring in a picture shot as well. Let's see. So that I can go to a picture later on. So I'm going to go up to, well, let's go to add a picture shot. And I'm going to go in and I'm just going to pick some generic kind of picture here. Let's just pick a background. This one will do fine. Now, if I put that shot up, you can see that we have black bars on either side. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit that shot again really quickly by right-clicking on the shot, selecting Edit the Shot. You'll see that we have several different ways that we can edit the shot here. See, we've got this checkerboard on either side. I want to go into the Configure Visual Effects area, and this is where you can move the shot around. You can make it, you can scale it to fit, you can reset the position, you can also flip it horizontally. What I want to do, I want to stretch this out a little bit, so I'm going to turn off the aspect ratio. Now, that'll do one of two things. If you do that, let's first go in and have a look. You can see it stretches everything out. So it makes everything seem a little squat and wide. Well, that's not what I really want either. But, you know, I've got a lot of sky in there and I got a lot of grass in there. Let me go back and re-edit that shot. It's not exactly where I want it. So I'm going to go back, turn back on the aspect ratio, and just like we did before, I'm going to zoom into that shot. I edited it out of there. Pardon me. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key on my keyboard. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, and I'm going to scroll in so that it fills the screen a little bit. There we go. Now the aspect ratio is still correct, and my shot has changed. You can see now how it widened out, filled the screen area, and now I've got that shot that I can use. But I still don't have any audio tied to it, so let's tie the audio to it so that way I can talk over when I'm showing the picture. We can bring in all kinds of different sources. As you can see here, we can bring in a video shot, a picture shot, or a music shot. Or we can add a whole new shot altogether and build it from scratch. Next to that, we have the area where we can bring in, add a Skype shot, which I preset up. So that's why that is there. And there's also add a presenter shot. I could turn on Desktop Presenter, which is another program I'll talk about in a little bit, which will allow me to bring in different sources to the computer so that you can see them on the other end. All right, so let's go back and play with these shots a little bit. I've got two shots here. I'm not sure what I want to do with them. Maybe this shot here that you're seeing now is somebody I've brought in via Skype, and I want to be on the screen with them at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new shot and add a new shot here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go over here, which allows you to apply a template to that shot. And I want to go a side-by-side shot so you can see what it's done here. It's created two placeholders that now are a side-by-side shot, which is actually kind of cool. So when we look at that and we see that we've got these two placeholders, now I can put stuff in these placeholders by, again, right-clicking, editing the shot, and going into the little camera that you see here. excuse me, which has all of my camera shots in it. So in the A, I'm going to put that camera shot, and in the B, I'm going to put that camera shot. I'm just going to move that over here. Oh, I guess I can't move that. Okay. I'm going to put B in that camera shot. And wow, man, I think I want to change the orientation of these just a little bit. Oh, if I go that way, you can see what happens when I move things around. Now that's not where I want it, so let's reset the positions. I can flip them, I can scale them. Let's reset that position for that particular shot. And we're going to move it over to the side where it was. We're going to go back to this one. I'm going to move that one all the way over. Now we can reposition these if we like. We don't have to. We can move them up. We can move them down. We can change the opacity of them. You can see that's kind of disappearing now. A very powerful tool this is. So now we're going to leave the shot the way that it is, but I think I want to turn the shots in a little bit. So I'm going to hold down my shift key. I'm going to move these on the plane a little bit. Move them in just a tad. Go to my other shot, move that one around just a little bit. There we go. To make it a little bit more appealing, if I hold down my control key, you see how I can turn the shot? I'm going to turn that shot so it, just like that. Now I'm going to go back to my A shot. I'm going to do the same thing. But they're on a little bit of an angle to one another. And I'm going to say, I like the way that looks. So now I'm going to go back. And you can see now we have this double box shot. Now you're wondering why this shot doesn't look like this shot. That's because on this shot, I didn't zoom in. If I wanted to zoom in, I could actually go ahead and do that now just by holding it. Again, holding down the Alt key, the right mouse button. Oh, that's the wrong shot. That's not the shot we wanted. This is the shot that we wanted. Oh, it's just scaling the size. See? I don't know everything. I'm going to go back to this one, and we're going to change that. We're going to scale it up just a little bit. There we are. All right, so that's okay. Because we didn't zoom in on this shot, we can't zoom in after the fact because it's on its own layer. Although this one zoomed in. All right, so looking at that, wow, now I need some information. Wow, how do I do that? Well, let's go and add to the bottom of this shot. We want to add a lower third to this shot. So again, we're going to go edit the shot. We're going to add another layer, which is right here. And we're going to go into the little T here for text. And this is going to allow us to put in something like a lower third. And then we go over to the T and we can fill in these lines. So I'm going to say this is podcast you. All right, and on the second line, I'm going to type my name. There we are. I can change the font. I can change the color. There's a variety of things that I can do. I like the way that that looks, so I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm going to click that shot one more time. You can see that the lower third comes up. Podcast you, Richard Cleveland, in 2 windows. You see? We can add a background behind that if we so chose. There's many things that we can do. We're going to talk a little bit about green screen in an upcoming episode. Now you're wondering, okay, I've got my audio set up. I've got my shot list set up. I've got my lower third set up. What do I do? Well, let's go ahead and set up our broadcast sources. So we're going to go into broadcast settings. And we're going to bring that onto screen so that you can see it. By default, it has localhost, live stream, my stream. Well, that's all well and good, but if we go down here to destination, we can see that we have a variety of different areas that we can go to. Ustream, Showcaster, Limelight, Justin TV. We're going to go to Justin TV. Here's where you would put in your username. And I can actually put in my username right now. Let's make sure we get that right. And then you would hit generate RTMP. It may ask you for your login information. And in this case, it's asking me for my password. I'm not going to put my password in right now, but that's the one we're going to use. We're going to use Justin TV Naked Ape Prod. Now, I also want to record that, but before I move away from that, that's a little too high to stream content. You can see that the bit rate is 2217K, and what that means is kilobits per second. That's a little too high to be streaming out over your internet. Most people don't have that kind of upspeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that, and we're going to go all the way down. You can see this is quite a large list. We're going to stream Flash media in a medium, and you'll see how that changed to 496K. So that means that we have 496K that we're sending out over our stream, which is a safe amount, still going to give us a really good picture. But now we want to add a recording. So I'm going to record to disk in this case. You can see right down at the very bottom here underneath YouTube, there's record to disk. And the reason that we want to record to disk and not just stream it is so that we can archive our show a little bit later on. Or if we don't want to stream it out live and we just want to record it using all the camera features that Wirecast has, we can do that. So first and foremost, once we've got the record to disk, we're going to tell it exactly how we want it to record. And again, we're going to go back into this nice big list. If you plan on sending this up to YouTube, a good thing to record in would be YouTube 720p. And that way you don't have to do a lot of encoding. We want to make sure that it's an MPEG-4 and not Flash. So it's going to record in MPEG-4. We want to tell it where to put that recording. And in this case, we're just going to go into my videos here, and we're just going to dump it in here into my videos. And we'll call this one test. Okay? So that's where we're going to send that. Now, you'll see where it says auto increment file names. This is handy because if you start and stop your recording, one of the things that's going to happen is it's going to add a number to the backside of that recording. So we called this one test. It's recording in an MPEG-4 format. It's going up to YouTube at 720p. And all of our other settings are great. So it's going to record it in a YouTube format. We can also record in a QuickTime format, which is handy. We can a Windows format, and several other formats that are handy for editing later on. We can also do it in a Flash format if we so chose. I'm not a big fan of recording in Flash format. That's why I typically will record either in a YouTube or a QuickTime format. That gives me the best file that I can go and edit later. All right, let's just close that out. Okay, so now where do we go from here? Well, we're going to save this. So now we've got that all done. So now we're going to start a broadcast. Well, let's go and start our broadcast. Well, we want to make sure that we hit the record button for starters. And you'll see what's happening here is that once it starts to populate, you can see that we've got, right now, our data rate is 26 KB per second. It's 20% CPU usage, which is not bad. It's actually pretty good. And we're holding steady at 30 frames per second. Now, we could hit the broadcast button, but we'll get an error because we didn't finish adding in all of the information. So this is where the error that we get. So we'll just hit OK. That's fine. It's not going to broadcast to that particular CDN. but we're making our show. So, hi, my name's Richard. You're watching Podcast U, and this is just a demonstration of how Wirecast works in a environment such as mine. So we've recorded our show. Thank you for joining me. And now we're going to, oh, wait a second. We have another guest in studio, and we're going to switch to that camera there. And hi, my name's Richard as well. And I'm here in the studio, and as you can see, we've got the Naked Ape logo behind us. Oh, well, now we want to go out to the sunny countryside, so we're going to switch to that camera. Now, as I said, I was going to show you some of these transitions, so let's do that. The bowstring. Let's go to that bowstring, and there we go. That's how the bowstring works. It kind of pushes out and then fires in the next shot. And if we want to do a smooth transition, what this is going to do is this is going to fade a little bit. There you go. So you can see how it fades. And I think I want to change the bowstring over to, well, let's go cube. That's kind of a cool one. So you'll see what happens when I transition to the next shot. You see how it turns like a big cube, which is kind of cool. For most of what you're going to do, you're going to use the cut. And that way it gives you a nice quick cut to the next camera, much like you see in professional broadcast television. Now, by no means is this unit or the way that we have it set up to do broadcast quality, but it certainly is able to do quality that is great for the internet. And that's something I want to stress. The way that we built this, the machine cost us about $1,200 to build. With the software, another $500 for the software. We're still under that $2,000. We're coming in at about $1,700. And I will tell you from my own experience, $1,700 for a software and hardware switching box that does exactly what we want it to do, it's not bad. So let's go back and we will check our other camera here. And there we go. All right, so we're back over here now at the camera that we were looking at prior. All right, so that's how Wirecast works in its simplest form. We set up, we imported some shots, we imported our audio to make sure that our audio was working, and then we added some transitions. We played around with transitions. We were able to broadcast it live over the internet, and we also set it up so that it would record for us as well. One thing we didn't show you. Let's go back. I got to show you this. Hang on. Let's go back. So we're back on this camera. We didn't turn off our record. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're going to turn off our record, and we want to see if that recorded okay. We're opening the wrong window. Look at that. We're going to go into our file system. We're going to find where that recording went and where we set it up to. I think we set it up to go to our videos, did we not? Yes, we did. So there it is, test 0. We're going to open it up. Record button for starters. And you'll see what's happening. And you can see that once it starts to populate, you can see there we are. Right now, our data rate is 25, 26 shrink this down a little bit so it fits into our window. It's 20% CPU usage, which is not bad. It's actually pretty good. And we're holding steady at 30 frames per second. And I'm going to just mute the audio so we don't have to hear that. But this was recorded in that format that we talked about. And you can see that we've got the different cameras, and you can see that everything, there we go. Look at that. I'm just kind of scrubbing through this, and we know that the audio is good, and we had about, we have a 10-minute clip there. So now we're going to close that, and we're going to head back over to our other computer here. All right, so we're heading back over to the other computer, and there we are. So that is exactly how Wirecast works. If you've got any questions, by all means, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer your questions. You can send your questions to podcastu@nakedapprod.com, or you can send them to me directly at richard@nakedapprod.com, or, be a part of our chat room each and every week. We'd enjoy for you to be there as well. Until next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to looking at the chat room and talking to you live and talking a little bit more about Wirecast. So I'll meet you back over there. Until next week. Next week, we're going to cover some more advanced features. So we're back in the studio. Thanks for bearing with me on the audio issue that we had with that particular piece. The problem that we had mostly was because when I was recording it, I didn't really notice that it was only recording on the left channel. So I do apologize for that. But we have some questions and some comments that I want to address that came into the chat room here. And first, I want to address Richard Wildman's comment about layering. Think of this program like Photoshop. If you're familiar with Photoshop, it has layers. And the topmost layer is the one that's going to be on top, of course. So as you layer your shot, as you can see here, the shot that we have right now, behind me is a green screen. And I've put my camera shot in front of that green screen image. So now that image is appearing behind me. So it's a layered. There we go. So somebody wanted me to talk a little bit about the cameras that I use. And the cameras that I use here in studio mainly are webcams. Recently, we added a couple of HD cams, or one HD cam, pardon me, and an older camera that we had kicking around here. The HD cam that we use is a Canon Vixia HFR20. It's a consumer-grade camera that you can pick up pretty much anywhere. I believe that actually this model has been discontinued. And the model that replaces it is the HFR30. And I really like it. That's the camera you're actually seeing me on right now. Now, Ben was asking what type of capture device I use. And the capture device that I use is the AverTV HDR, or pardon me, PVR capture card. It has two inputs on the back. One is for HDMI, and the second is for breakout cable that comes with the card. The card retails for about $105 on Amazon. It's a really good card. If you've got a prosumer or consumer camera that you want to use with your Wirecast setup, you can certainly do that. You can also use Blackmagic intensity cards in here as well. So there's a variety of other things that you can do. I just want to go through some of the other types of questions that we have here. Ben is saying he's headed over to the Cup. So that pretty much... does anybody have any questions that they want to ask here real quick before I go? Canopus devices work well. Yes, you're absolutely right about that, Mr. Wildman. And you had made a comment earlier about the audio. And yeah, we were having a little bit of problems with the audio. Is the audio coming through now okay, guys? I'll wait to see. Yes, I will talk about. Ben wants to know about how to set it up to use with a Google Hangout. You can use this with a Google Hangout. The one thing that I've found so far is that there's a little bit of a lag issue with a Google Hangout, because with this program, you can go underneath the broadcast and there's a virtual camera out there. At the very bottom of the list on the most current version of Wirecast, you'll see that there's a virtual camera out. If you decide on which, you have to decide on which stream you want to send out. Typically, most people are going to send a 360p stream. And then you'll just hit the start, and then you'll start up your Google Hangout. You'll tell in the properties of the Google Hangout that you're using the Wirecast as a camera source, and it will send your camera source down. You guys who I've talked to in the past know that I've done that before, where you can see the green screen and a funky background behind me. I've done that many times, and I'm going to actually touch on that a little bit more in the next episode as we get into some more intermediate stuff. Oh, Tanya's snorting. And the mic is a little bit bigger than my head, yes. I'll try not to wear white next week because it makes me look fat and you can see my moobs. But that's okay. And that pretty much is going to round up the show for tonight. Do you have? If there's any real quick questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Moobs. Yes, they're moobs. There is a little problem with the IRC. We're working on getting a pop-out IRC so that it's not attached to the page, so you'll be able to watch the video and be able to participate in the IRC. And with that being said, what's my lighting setup? Oh, wow, there's a good question. The lighting setup that I have here is all DIY. And I don't have a Flames jersey on, no. The DIY is I went to Walmart and I bought some shop lights, and they are the 4-foot fluorescent fixtures. I put 4 of them up on the ceiling in the studio. And then what I did was I decided that I wanted to have daylight balanced bulbs. So I bought the 65 Kelvin daylight balanced bulbs, and I put them in there. They're low wattage, so each fixture only runs about 40 watts, if that. And then I bought 3 cans, shop cans, clip cans as they're called. And inside those, I also put daylight balanced compact fluorescents. And that's why we have a fairly decent green screen behind us. And that's just a piece of fabric. You guys saw it earlier, but what I'm going to do here is I'll show you this shot. And behind me, the fabric is wrinkled. It's not perfect. And this fabric, I think we found for maybe 50 cents a meter, or in the States, it'd be about a yard. And we just took 2 pieces and we sewed it together, and I stuck it up on the wall. How do you deal with video restart? Actually, I don't have that problem. I haven't had any problems with video restarting. When you've started a video and then place a lower third or other item or shut off a lower third, I really don't have video restarts. I can turn on and off my lower thirds fairly quickly. Just to give you an idea, there's a lower third there from Wirecast. And I haven't had to restart that at all. It might be a bug on the Mac version. I haven't had that bug in the latest version of Wirecast, which is 4.2.3. And they are getting ready to make some significant changes to the Mac version for those Mac users out there. I understand that the virtual camera output is coming in the next update to the Mac version of Wirecast. So watch for that. Anybody that's using a Mac. This software is not available on Linux. I know somebody had asked that question. And it is not available for Linux. And my understanding is that there won't be an edition for Linux anytime soon. So Richard is drinking a Pepsi. Yes, I am drinking a Pepsi. Right there. You guys are trying to distract me now. But with that being said, any more questions real quick before I wrap it up? We are getting to the end of the show. Gregory said it made the video restart. Well, it shouldn't have made the video restart. I didn't notice it on my end. vMix. I have not tried vMix. So that was our intro into Wirecast. Next week, we're going to get into some more intermediate stuff. We're going to be talking about that virtual camera output, how you can use it with other programs. We are also going to be talking a little bit more about green screening. So we'll tell you how you can bring in your own backgrounds, your family, your friends. If you want to be in front of the Death Star, you can be in front of the Death Star, or like I am, in front of a giant microphone and headphones, which will never fit on my head. We're going to talk about distance from green screen. We're going to tell you how to light the green screen properly for Wirecast, and we'll get into a little bit more about CDNs and how you can stream to multiple CDNs and send audio out to places like Mixler. So until next week, thanks for joining me, and I will see you at Podcast U.